The stars shone quietly above the endless black space. The Verleen fleet moved slowly through the empty void, searching for signs of life and new worlds. The Verleen were a peaceful species. They did not want war. They wanted to explore and learn. Their ships were filled with scientists and diplomats, not soldiers. Captain Rallick watched the glowing screen in front of him. The sensors had picked up a strange object far ahead. It was a ship unlike any they had seen before. The shape was simple but strong. It moved steadily through space, its surface shining with a dull metal glow. "Captain," said the science officer, "it looks like a warship, but its design is very old-fashioned. It does not match any known technology in the Coalition databases." Rallick frowned. "How is it possible? We have not heard from humans in decades. We thought they were gone." "Maybe not," the science officer answered. "This ship is active. It is heading toward our space. We should learn more." Rallick nodded slowly. He knew that scanning this warship could be dangerous. The humans were unpredictable. They had fought many wars long ago, and their technology was not like anyone else's. But curiosity won over caution. "Prepare the scanners," he ordered. "We want to see what they have inside." The Verleen ship moved closer. Its long-range scanners turned on and began to send waves toward the human ship. The waves passed through shields and hull, gathering data about the ship's shape, engines, and weapons. The Verleen scientists worked quickly to understand what they found. The data was strange. The ship looked simple, but it had many hidden layers. Its weapons were old-style, with large cannons and missile bays. But the power output was higher than expected. The engines seemed slow, but they had unknown energy sources that the Verleen could not identify. "Captain," said the science officer again, "this ship is unlike any other. It uses technology that we have never seen. It may be dangerous." Rallick felt a chill in his spine. He thought about the old stories from his people. The humans were fierce fighters. They could survive impossible odds. They were clever and ruthless when they needed to be. But the Verleen were not a warlike race. They had always tried to avoid fights. The ship continued to scan. Suddenly, the human ship sent a message through space. It was loud and clear. "You are scanning a human warship. Cease immediately or suffer the consequences." The message shocked the crew. It was the first time they heard human language in years. The words were simple, but the tone was cold and threatening. Rallick looked at the message. "This is a warning. They do not want us to scan them." "We can stop now," said the science officer. "But we may lose a chance to learn about them." Rallick thought for a moment. "No," he said firmly. "We will continue. We need to know who we face." The scanners resumed their work, sending more waves to the human ship. The Verleen watched the readings carefully. Suddenly, the sensors began to fail. The waves returned broken and incomplete. The human ship was using some kind of technology to hide its true shape. "Captain," shouted the science officer, "they are blocking our scanners. We cannot see inside anymore." Rallick's eyes narrowed. "Prepare for defense. This may not be a peaceful encounter." The Verleen ships moved into a defensive formation. Their shields were raised. Their weapons were ready, but no one wanted to fire first. Suddenly, the human ship sent a burst of small drones. They flew fast and silently through space. The drones hit the Verleen ships and disabled their sensors one by one. The Verleen fleet was stunned. Their advanced technology was no match for the small drones. Their ships began to lose power and control. Rallick shouted orders to his crew, but the damage was spreading. The human warship moved calmly through the chaos. It was not afraid. Rallick looked at the main screen and saw the human commander's face appear. The man was calm and serious. "You have scanned a human warship. That is a death sentence." Rallick felt a cold fear inside. The humans were not just strong. They were prepared for any attack or spy. "We do not want war," Rallick said loudly, "but we will defend ourselves." The human commander smiled slightly. "You have made your choice." The screen went dark and the battle began. The silence in space was broken by alarms. The Vralin ships shook from sudden impacts. Captain Rallick gripped the edge of his chair, eyes wide but calm. The small drones that came from the human warship were faster and smarter than anything the Vralin had seen before. Their sensors and engines were disabled one by one. "Status report," Rallick ordered. The communications officer's voice trembled slightly. "Captain, the drones have damaged our sensor arrays. Our ability to scan or target them is nearly gone. Weapon systems are still operational, but we can barely see them." Rallick nodded grimly. "Focus on defense. Prepare to evade and shield up." The science officer tried to make sense of the human ship's unusual tech. "Captain, these drones are programmed to attack scanners first. It is a clever tactic. They want to stop us from learning about their weapons and capabilities." "How many drones?" Rallick asked. "Hundreds, maybe more," the officer replied, "and they seem to coordinate perfectly. Their attacks are surgical and precise." Rallick realized they were dealing with a force designed not only for war but for intelligence. The humans had built a trap for anyone who tried to spy on them. It was more than defense. It was a warning. Suddenly, a new message came from the human ship. The voice was cold and clear. "You have violated a sacred rule by scanning a human warship without permission. This is your final warning. Stop now, or face destruction." The message sent a chill through the Vralin bridge. For years, their species had relied on diplomacy and careful exploration, but now they faced a species that did not negotiate easily and protected its secrets fiercely. Rallick looked at his crew. "We must decide. Do we back down or do we continue?" The science officer spoke up. "Captain, if we retreat, we lose valuable knowledge. But if we attack, we risk war." Rallick's jaw tightened. "Our mission is peace, but we cannot ignore the danger. We will stop scanning for now. Inform the human ship we mean no harm." He nodded to the communications officer. "Send a message. We respect your warning. We do not want conflict. We withdraw scans and ask for peaceful contact." The message was sent. Seconds passed like hours. The crew waited, hearts pounding. Then, unexpectedly, the human ship slowed down and sent another message. "We accept your withdrawal for now. But remember, humanity is not a species to be tested lightly." The Vralin officers exchanged looks of relief mixed with unease. The humans had not attacked them outright, but the warning was clear. Rallick took a deep breath. "This encounter is a sign. Humanity is different from other species we have met. We must be careful." The science officer added, "Captain, I suggest we study the data we have already gathered. Even if incomplete, it may reveal clues about human technology." Rallick agreed. "Do it, and keep all weapons on standby. We don't know what may come next." As the Vralin fleet moved slowly away, the human warship watched silently. Its commander stood on the bridge, eyes fixed on the view screen showing the retreating alien ships. He spoke quietly to his crew. "Let this be a lesson. Scanning a human warship is not just dangerous. It is deadly. We protect our secrets with our lives." The Vralin fleet had stopped scanning the human warship, but the tension in the cold black of space did not ease. Captain Rallick stood on the bridge of his command ship, staring at the dark shape of the human vessel ahead. It was quiet, but something about the stillness felt wrong. The science officer worked tirelessly to analyze the limited data they had gathered before the human ship had blocked their scanners. The readings were strange. The ship's hull seemed to shift slightly under their sensors, and its weapon systems did not match anything the Vralin had catalogued. "We can't understand their technology completely," the science officer said. "But there is one thing I'm sure of: they are prepared. Whatever we do, they are ready for it." Rallick nodded grimly. "We must be careful. They warned us once. We should not provoke them." Suddenly, a bright flash lit the space around the Vralin fleet. Sensors screamed with warnings. The human warship had released a new attack, a swarm of invisible drones faster and more agile than before. The drones darted through space like tiny missiles, striking at the Verleen ships with surgical precision. Shields flared, and weapons went silent. Communications faltered as the drones disrupted their systems. "Captain, we are under heavy attack," the weapons officer shouted. "Our shields are failing on several ships." Rallick took a deep breath, his mind racing. "All ships, evasive maneuvers, focus all power to shields and engines. Try to keep the drones away." The Verleen ships twisted and turned, trying to dodge the swarm, but the drones seemed to anticipate every move. It was as if they were connected to a single mind, learning and adapting instantly. The science officer stared at her console. "Their tactics are unlike anything we have seen. They adapt faster than we can react." Rallick knew this was not just a fight for survival, it was a lesson. The humans wanted to show them that probing their warships would have consequences. "Prepare countermeasures," he ordered. "Deploy any jamming or defense drones we have." The fleet launched their own small drones, but the humans swarm, outnumbered and outperformed them. One by one, the Verleen ships fell silent as systems failed. The human warship moved calmly through the chaos, untouched and confident. From the main screen, Rallick saw the human commander appear again. The man's face was calm but stern. "You ignored our warning," he said. "Now you will pay the price." Rallick clenched his fists. "We wanted peace. We only scanned to understand. We did not want to fight." The human commander's eyes narrowed. "Curiosity is dangerous. When it crosses boundaries, you chose to test us. That is your mistake." The battle raged on. The Verleen ships fought bravely but were outmatched. Their advanced technology and numbers could not overcome the human ships' adaptive tactics and hidden weapons. A message flashed through the Verleen comms. Several ships had lost power and were drifting helpless. Rescue was impossible. While the drones swarmed, Rallick made a hard decision. "All ships disengage and retreat, save what you can." The retreat was slow and costly. The human drones continued to strike, but the Verleen crews used their knowledge of the terrain and formation to escape. As the last of the Verleen ships fled, the human warship powered down its attack drones and returned to its silent watch. Rallick stood alone on his bridge, staring at the stars. The lesson was clear and harsh. The smartest aliens knew better than to scan a human warship. It was a death sentence. The Verleen fleet retreated to a safe distance, nursing their wounds and trying to repair the damage done by the human warship's sudden and brutal attack. Captain Rallick sat silently on the bridge of his command ship, staring at the glowing stars outside. His mind was heavy with thoughts of failure and the unexpected power they had faced. The battle had been swift and decisive. Despite their advanced technology and careful planning, the Verleen had been overwhelmed by a force they did not understand, a force that learned and adapted with terrifying speed. Their once proud fleet was now scattered, damaged, and shaken. In the quiet of the aftermath, Rallick called his officers together. "We cannot fight them as we have. Their technology and tactics are unlike anything we know. We must rethink our approach." The science officer nodded. "Their adaptive weapons and drones are far superior, but we have not yet fully studied their systems. Even the incomplete data may help us find a weakness." The weapons officer added, "We must find a way to counter their swarm drones. If we can disable or disrupt their control, we may turn the battle." Rallick looked at his officers, determination growing in his eyes. "Prepare all ships for a full counterattack. We will not run forever. We will learn from our defeat and strike back, smarter and stronger." Days passed as the Verleen fleet worked tirelessly to repair their ships and analyze the data captured during the brief scan before the attack. Engineers studied the human technology, trying to understand the strange energy sources and shield patterns. "We have discovered something new," the science officer reported. "The human ship's AI is unlike any other. It learns from each attack and adapts instantly. It is almost as if the ship itself is alive." Rallick leaned forward. "Can we disrupt this AI?" "We believe so," the officer replied. "There is a small window during their drone release when the AI focuses on control signals. If we can jam or hack that moment, we may cause confusion." Rallick smiled grimly. Then that is where we will strike. The Vraline fleet moved out again, this time with new weapons and a new plan. Instead of trying to scan or attack, directly they would aim to confuse and disrupt. The human warship awaited them, calm and silent. When the drones were released as before, the Vraline launched their jamming devices at the critical moment. The swarm faltered, drones colliding and losing coordination. For the first time, the Vraline ships found an opening. They fired, volleys of energy at the human ship, testing its shields. The human commander's face appeared on the main screen. He looked surprised but quickly recovered. "Impressive," he said. "You learn quickly." But the battle was far from over. The human ship adjusted instantly, repairing drone control and shifting tactics. The Vraline fleet pressed their attack, their ships moving as one. They used everything they had learned, their tactics, technology, and courage, to challenge the human warship. The fight was fierce, and for the first time, the Vraline saw cracks in the human defense. Several drones were destroyed, and the ship's shields flickered. Rallic knew this was their chance. "All ships, focus fire on the drone control array. We must break their coordination." The fleet concentrated their energy weapons on a small section of the ship. The shields flashed but could not hold forever. Suddenly, a part of the human ship's outer hull cracked and sparks flew. The human commander's face appeared again, now serious but respectful. "You have forced us to adapt once more. Well done." But then, the ship unleashed a hidden weapon. A powerful blast of energy aimed directly at the Vraline flagship. The blast hit hard, knocking out engines and weapons. Ralic's ship shook violently, alarms blaring. The crew scrambled to repair the damage. "We may have won the first battle," Rallic said, "but this war is far from over." The battle had slowed. Both fleets were tired and damaged. The stars outside the command bridge shone cold and distant. Captain Rallic sat quietly, thinking about the fight and the strange enemy they faced. The human warship had shown power and skill beyond any other species they knew. But there was something more, something that technology alone could not explain. Rallic received an unexpected order from the fleet commander. A small team would board the human ship for a peaceful meeting. The humans wanted to talk. It was a chance to understand them better, and maybe find a way to avoid more bloodshed. The boarding party prepared carefully. Rallic chose his best officers, the science officer, a skilled engineer, and a communications specialist. They entered a small shuttle, silent and tense, and flew toward the human warship. The airlock opened smoothly, and the team stepped inside. The ship's interior was different from what the Vraline expected. It was clean but practical, with a feeling of readiness and purpose. A human officer greeted them. His face was calm and serious. "Welcome," he said. "We do not want war if it can be avoided." Rallic nodded. "We did not mean to provoke you. We only wanted to learn." The human officer smiled faintly. "Your scan was a threat to us. We protect our ships and our people fiercely. It is how we survive." The Vraline team moved deeper into the ship. They saw the crew working with a quiet intensity, machines and people moving in harmony. The human commander appeared and spoke directly to Rallic. "You wonder why we fight like we do. It is not just technology. It is our way of life." He explained how humans had survived countless wars and disasters by being unpredictable, stubborn, and willing to sacrifice everything for those they cared about. "Your species fights with machines," he said. "We fight with our minds and hearts as well. That is why we adapt so fast and take risks others would never try." Rallic listened carefully. He realized this was the key to humanity's strength, a spirit that could not be measured or copied. The humans showed their technology and tactics, but also shared stories of courage, loss, and hope. The Vraline began to see them not as enemies, but as a complex and resilient people. When the meeting ended, Rallic felt a deep respect for the humans. He knew their warning was not just about technology, but about the cost of underestimating a determined species. As the Vraline team returned to their ship, Rallic looked back once more. The human warship was silent, but its presence was powerful. He made a decision. We will prepare for peace, but we will not forget the lesson. Scanning a human warship is more than a risk. It is a challenge to a force that fights with every part of itself. The Vrelin fleet drifted through space, slower now and quieter. Their ships bore the scars of battle, dents, burns, and broken shields. Captain Rallick sat in his command chair, staring at the stars beyond the view screen, thinking about the recent encounter. The humans had shown power, technology, and something more, an unbreakable spirit. They had forced the Vrelin to retreat and rethink everything they knew about war and peace. Rallick tapped the console to send a final message to the human commander. It was simple, but honest. We recognize your strength and your will to protect. We will not test humanity again without respect. The message was sent, and a moment later, the human warship responded with a single line. Respect is earned, not given. Remember that. That response echoed in Rallick's mind. It was both a warning and an invitation. Back on the human ship, the commander stood silently on the bridge. He looked at the retreating Vrelin fleet and nodded to his crew. Let them go, for now, he said. But word of this encounter will spread. Humanity will be known not only for its technology, but for its resolve. No one will scan our ships without consequence again. The story of the human warship that destroyed. An entire fleet with unseen drones and unmatched tactics traveled quickly through the galaxy. The Vrelin spread the tale among their allies. Other species listened, some with fear, others with respect. Humanity's reputation grew as a race to be reckoned with, brave, unpredictable, and fiercely protective of their own. Captain Rallick stood before the council of Vrelin leaders. He told them everything he had learned, the technology, the battle, and the human spirit. They fight not just with weapons, he said, but with their minds and hearts. We must be careful with how we engage them. The council agreed. They decided to send diplomats instead of soldiers if they ever met humans again. They would respect the warning given. Scanning a human warship was more than a risk, it was a challenge. Years later, when the galaxy faced a new threat, it was humanity that stood at the forefront. Their strange and fierce way of fighting saved many worlds. The lesson was clear. Underestimate humans, and it could mean your end. But respect them, and you might find powerful allies. Captain Rallick looked at the stars once more. He had seen the true strength of humanity, not just in their machines, but in their will. The galaxy was vast, full of wonders and dangers. But now, everyone knew one truth. Scanning a human warship? The smartest aliens know that's a death sentence.